I will. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's board meeting, January 12th, 2021. Happy New Year. Meeting called to order. A pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please take a moment for silent reflection. Roll call, please, and quorum check.
Mr. Rashka?
Here.
Mr. Leary?
Present.
Mrs. Karopolsky?
Here.
Mrs. Wilson?
Here.
Mrs. Dubard?
Present.
Mr. Schaefer?
Here.
And Mr. Warburton?
Derek, can you unmute?
Or wave, raise your hand.
Raise your hand then. Thank you. Okay, approval of the board meeting minutes from 12/8/2020. Could I have a motion, please?
I make a motion, Thomas Raska.
I'll second. Carol.
I have a motion by Mr. Raska and a second by Mrs. Karopolsky. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Board trustee reports. I'll start in the corner. Mr. Raska, anything?
I have nothing to report at this meeting.
Mrs. Dubard?
I have nothing to report at this meeting.
Mr. Leary?
Yeah, I was able to participate in the elementary school reading stories for the holiday season. And I must say it was great to be up there with all of the other teachers. The stories were fantastic. It looks like a great way to encourage reading in our district. So well done, elementary school.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Leary. Mr. Schaefer?
Nothing today.
Thank you. Mrs. Karopolsky?
I had the ECASB Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and we're, struggling through creating a budget when you're uncertain of how much we'll be able to have and hold, and because of COVID. So we had to make some adjustments to the money that would be set aside for different things. But it was a good meeting. We got through it. We were able to approve it. We won't have to carry it over into February. So it looks good. They're doing a great job over there at ECASB, making sure we have everything we need for the boards, for the schools. And then this weekend, I did take a ride over to look at the construction going on at Union East. Mr. Quigley has been doing a great job posting pictures on Facebook and keeping us updated. And I knew that the steel had been sent, and I wanted to go over and get a look at it. And it looks great. It's amazing, and excited for it. So that's all I have.
Thank you. It is exciting. Mr. Warburton, anything? I don't. Okay, Derek obviously is having some issues with his sound. I also was able to go over and check out the construction project at Union East. I had a couple chances to have a conversation with Mr. Vona, and I'm sorry, and I also have been busy with ECASB. and BOCES, keeping schools up and running and moving in the right direction. Just so you know, board, the ECASB, we have 3 things coming up. If you haven't checked your email, and I'm going to throw them out there right now just to remind you. On January 27th, the super eval, we're holding it. These are all virtual. You need to register if you want to attend. On February 1st, it's Digistream. And on the 4th of February, it's Rick Timms. Those are all through ECASB. There's registration through Marianne, or you can do it yourself, preferably with her, if you can. If you can attend it, I would really like to encourage you to do so. So moving forward, we will do our administrative updates. Mr. Zip, could you go first, please?
Before Mr. Zip goes, I think Mr. Warburton's finally unmuted.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Derek, do you have anything for us? Thank you.
No, I don't, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad we have that situated. I appreciate it. Okay, now, Mr. Zip, could you, are you ready for your update for us?
Mr. Zip, you are mute.
What the heck happened here?
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, well, I guess I'm having a little trouble, so
Okay.
I can't see anything. All right.
can't-
Well, hello. Good
Hi.
old technology. Now I can see. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I had the YouTube station on and it's delayed, so I'm hearing both of them come in and out. So, hi everyone. I hope everyone is well. Thank you for allowing me to present. I'm going to go through our 3 priorities as usual. But when I start with priority 1, when we talk about learning, I really would like to, I want to share with the board kind of where we've been in our journey so far this year during the pandemic. So you have an understanding, because we respond to a lot of parents, and I know, you see people in the community, and I don't feel like I've ever done a good enough job to explain where we've been, and I think it'll be good for our board members to hear that. So in the beginning, we started hybrid, and we were hybrid as well as asynchronous. So we had a group of students that were, if they chose for whatever reasons they were to be full remote, they were full remote asynchronously. So work was being pushed out from the teachers 4 days a week to those students. And then our 5th day, which is Wednesday, is always office hours and remedial for students. And we didn't know what to expect. And it was working in the fashion of education was taking place, but we couldn't really measure it because it was the beginning of the year. Then we moved to full remote. And right before we went full to remote, we had done a grade reporting and we were looking at the data, and Mr. Hanford actually compiled a bunch of data for me. And what it showed was our full remote kids were obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but what we would expect, not as successful as our hybrid students that were coming in twice a week. So we made a decision based on the data to go, when we went full remote, we said everyone's full remote and you had to be synchronous. Obviously there was, some upset parents because their schedules had already been set, and some parents are real happy, and it's never the perfect world, but based on the data and what we thought was going to be successful for our students, we decided to keep our cohorts. And you saw the teacher twice live based on your cohort, but all of our remote students were pushed into a cohort, so they had to do synchronous learning. And we didn't have a grade report in that time, but talking to teachers and looking at report cards, you could see that there was there was more success. And what was interesting is when we went full remote, a lot of hybrid kids started to not do as well. Because they were used to being in school. So now that we have returned to hybrid, we made the decision that you can no longer be remote asynchronous like we were in September. So currently, as it stands, you can still obviously be a full remote student, but you have to be synchronous with your cohort. So we're excited to see, now this was a new change. So the second quarter Report cards will reflect a little bit of that because we're only going to have 3 of the 10 weeks that we would have been hybrid synchronous. But as we move into the third quarter, we'll be excited to see, and hopefully we see an increase in not only student engagement, but student success. One of the things that troubles us is, we're constantly looking at our data of our student success based on grades, and there's more to success than grades, but that's the measuring stick at the high school level. We got a little anxiety on the difference that we have while we're in regular school, and we understand and we expect a dip in success. This is a whole different type of schooling for all students in Cheektowaga, but across the states. So we're continually, when you look at priority 1 and like thinking about the learning, usually we're talking about what our teachers are doing and what platforms we're using and what engagement strategies they're using. But I really wanted the board to have an understanding of where we were in September, what we have moved to, and the reasons we did. And it's really based on the data of the success of our students. I'll come back if you have questions in regards to that. Priority 2. So right now we are talking about the whole child, and we are knee deep in getting ready for the rollout of our mentoring program that was part of of the SEP plan with the middle school and Union East, as well as what the high school is doing, that we're doing district wide, and what we're doing for DSIP. So I'm actually meeting, we had a good meeting today, a meeting with the assistant principals, and I believe Mrs. Cheektowaga and Angela Prince about what we can do to really get the mentoring program off the ground. And that's going to be, I'm reporting on it because the assistants don't report, but Mrs. Cheektowaga's running that part of the DSIP. The assistant principals are running it, but Mike Faddis and Micah and Julia and Katie are all part of it. But the high school students are going to be mentoring Union East students and middle school students to start making connections with those students that are in need of mentoring. So it's going to be a pretty neat program. Has its difficulties because you lose a lot of the personalness as we're doing a Zoom now, but it's a start. And hopefully when things settle down and we're back to what we know is our norm, we're up and running and we have a program in place. So that's where we're headed with the whole child. As usual, our PPS staff is constantly reaching out to students right now because students are in need of human interaction. And I just tasked the PPS staff with coming up with some professional development for our high school staff, because our teachers need some mental health training, release. I'm not even sure what I'm going to refer to it as, but I asked our PPS staff, who are the professionals in that area, to really look at putting something together, and then something that we can turn around and our teachers can turnkey to our students, because our students are in need of that as well. So it's exciting. It's different than talking about, I guess, social studies, science, English, ELA, math, but that's where we're headed, and that's what the times are calling for right now. So that's what we're trying to focus on. And last but not least, we talk about 21st century skills, and that's a no-brainer right now. Because we are hybrid, we're remote, we're doing a lot of things, a lot of our education in the digital platform. When you talk about the 21st century skills, collaboration and digital literacy, critical thinking, problem solving's in there. These are all skills that the people in the lead out there say this is what students need as we move into the future. And it's all schools are working on that 24/7. I'm not going to say like we turned over a rock of some brilliant new thing, but as we moved into this remote digital learning, hybrid learning, we're continually working on those things. And one of the positives is, and I'd be first to admit it, if the pandemic never happened, personally, and even I'll speak for like as my high school, we wouldn't be where we are right now with digital learning and where our students are with the digital world. So if we're looking for a silver lining in all what I will consider this craziness, that would be it. So that is that is the high school of the three priorities. And any questions?
Mr. Zip, I have a question.
Yes.
Is the grading system a little different between remote, hybrid, and, but with the hybrid and remote hybrid, is that the grading is different, or
No. Grading is exactly the same. And especially now that the students are synchronous, there's really no difference between being remote and there's a big difference between being remote and hybrid, but what is being delivered to you when we talk about from an educational standpoint and looking at curriculum, what is being delivered is exactly the same. And we have teachers now using platforms that, whether you're at your home on the computer or you're in the classroom listening to the teacher, or you're even on the classroom on your Chromebook, the curriculum and the material is exactly the same. I do agree, as a person, being remote is a little more difficult, but I don't know what the undertaking would be of trying to develop a grading system for that student that was remote versus hybrid. And with that, I'm sure would come some inequities that we would have to face. So currently our grading system's exactly the same for all students. On a side note, we're looking at the grading systems. We're in different times, but we're using traditional grading systems. Doesn't really make sense. And of course, I know there's always people on each side of the spectrum. My job is to be in the middle and make a decision that's in the best interest of the Cheektowaga Central High School students, not what's the popular vote. So that's something we're currently working on with Brian, Mike, Micah, and the PPS staff of how we're going to move forward with grading.
Okay.
Mr. Zip, I have a brief question. Thanks so much, for catching the grades and paying attention to that during the school year, and then taking action, which is to go to the synchronous hybrid format. And I'm sure that you will continue to look at this data as it comes in over the next couple of weeks. Do you have any inkling of what the action would be if moving to synchronous hybrid does not have the result that you hope for?
What my next step would be is basically what you're asking, Mr. Leary.
Yeah.
I am unsure right now, only
Okay.
because we have just made
Sure.
this move. In my heart, I'm hoping things open up and we have all our kids in front of us and I don't have to make the next move. But as of right now, I would be lying if I told you I had something planned. We're just in the push out of the synchronous and hybrid and getting the teachers used to that, because it's, the teachers are changing every time I make a change, right? Now you have to teach the kids in front of you and the kids at home at the same time. And so I'm not there yet. Once we roll this out and, talking with the APs at the building and Mr. Hickson is the AD, we'll start looking at, and to be honest with you, we involve the teachers a lot with that conversation and PPS. So that's next on the list.
Thanks so much for your response.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Zip? Great job. Appreciate it. Hang in there.
All right. As always, any questions, reach out. Thank you for what you do and stay safe.
You too, okay?
All right.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Okay, so I think next up, Mrs. Mitchell, if we could have Mrs. Mitchell. She's ready for us. Hi. Hi, Mrs. Mitchell.
Hello.
How are
Sorry,
you?
like Mr. Zip, when
It's
you're
okay.
watching it on the feed and then there's definitely a delay.
I know.
So I had to turn
Okay,
off
we're
the
ready
one.
when you are. Good to see you.
I'm good. It's nice. Awesome. It's great to see you as well, and it's great to be here to share some updates from Union East. So along with our 3 priorities, as Mr. Zip spoke about, we are entering that nearing that midway point in the school year. So we started yesterday administering the mid-year STAR assessment. So it'll be the third administration of that assessment for our students in the school year. So they have been taking it every 10 weeks. They took it last in the middle of November, and they are taking it again now. We are very, as we shared this morning during our DSEP report out, our monthly report out, some of our preliminary data is really showing some nice growth from our students. For example, one of the first grade classrooms that had their whole class test, because they are they need to be able to test everyone in their remote classroom. They showed a scale score increase of over 70 points with a grade equivalent increase of 0.8. So that's almost a full year of growth in just about a half of a year of school. So that really is showing that what we're doing and the instructional decisions that we are making to be very pointed in our instruction on our standards is really making an impact for our students. So I'll be excited to next month share a better picture of our whole school as a whole, as we just started yesterday. So we'll have all of that data by the end of next week, once we get through this week, and then makeups for next week. We also, in February, will be administering a round of running records for our students to get an updated reading level. So for many of our students, the last reading level that we have is from about this time last year. So it's almost a year old piece of data. And we are going to be transitioning to the units of study running records, which are a little bit different, but still give us a good idea of our students' reading. So they will really help to identify where our students are at an independent reading level. So that will help us to guide our strategy instruction in our reading groups. So we'll be having some PD for our staff on the slight differences between our Fountas and Pinnell running records and the units of study running records, but we will be administering that to all students in the beginning of February. And the reason we decided to wait until then instead of starting right after the STAR is because of the mid-semester switch. We do have at this time about 70 families that are choosing to switch from either remote to hybrid or hybrid to remote, is more coming back to hybrid. And we thought that it was best that the teacher that will be working with the students for the remainder of the school year is doing that assessment, because then they can use the data most appropriately. So we are looking forward to that, and I'll be happy to share that once we have it all gathered. So the STAR data in the beginning of February and the running record by the end of February. We are in the midst of our implementation of the units of study in writing. And I have to say that it really is going well with our students and with our teachers. It's a very enjoyable part of our teachers' day and our students' day. They love to be able to write, and the products that when you get a message from a parent and they are part of their concern per se is that their children are writing so much. I think that really is something to celebrate, that our students are writing so much and they're really growing as writers. So our work as a school is to make sure that our parents understand what we're using as our curriculum and how we are teaching that. And that really leads into one of the other points I'll be speaking out on with our 21st century skill. We also, because of the success that our teachers have found with the units of study and writing, are beginning our our units of study in reading, which is directly aligned. It is also aligned to our units of study in phonics. So all three pieces then of our English language arts instruction will be very cohesive. And we're almost a half year ahead of what our implementation plan was for that, because our teachers just see how the pieces fit together. So that really is exciting. So we had some of that professional development start, and some of our teachers have already begun that process, which is very exciting. In math, we are participating in a PD next week on number strands, particularly how do we increase that math fact fluency and automaticity of that math thinking, both in person and remote for all of our students. And how does that happen on a regular basis to really build that fluency? It's more than just knowing our facts, as we maybe all were taught as we were in school, but also how are we a flexible math thinker to be able to apply what we know to be able to solve unknown problems. So it really is goes hand in hand with that automaticity, but also how are we a thinker in mathematics. We also will be beginning our implementation of our Amplified Science with our third grade students, which according to the most current timeline will be our first students to take the new science assessment in the spring of 2022. So they would be our first group, and we will be getting that in the mid-year for this year. As far as our whole child, we did have a drive-through event in December, the day right before break for our families, which was very well attended. Our students made holiday cards and signs that were delivered to local nursing homes and group homes that were all of them had connections to our building in some way, either parents that work there or families who had family members that were there. And so our students, that was their admission to the event, was to bring a card. So we were able to pay it forward that way. Our students were able to mail a letter to Santa, as well as to receive some prizes from our, as sponsored by our PTA. So that was really a nice event, and what it's really allowed us to do this year is to turn our school-wide assemblies and our school-wide celebrations into family celebrations as well. So our families are really part of that celebration, not just our student, but kind of is building that even bigger. We will be implementing our attendance committee in the next few days for the next semester to really be examining our students' attendance and making sure that our students are all on track to showing good attendance. And finally, with regards to our 21st century skills, as I spoke about earlier, our parents having an idea of the curriculum that we're using and what is the expectations of our end of the year learners, we are working on a virtual curriculum night that will be pushed out to all of our families, will be a living document on our website for all of our families to reference of what their students should be able to do by the end of the year, as well as what our units are. And that will complement our monthly newsletters which outline what we are doing each month. So it'll kind of give a big picture as well as a narrower view for our families at each grade level in all subject areas, including our special areas. We also are continuing to use our Class Dojo as a communication. We have 711 of our parents connected, and we really use that to push out information both at the classroom level and at the school level for our families. And we really are finding that to be a good tool for our families. Finally, our Google Classrooms for our students in grades 2 through 4 is really our main place for our curriculum to instruction, and our Seesaw journal in grades K and 1. And if you ever want to take a look at any of those, I'd be happy to pass along the code so you can check out some of the things that our students are doing from our earliest learners in pre-K all the way up to our 4th graders. So really, our teachers are doing an amazing job to make sure that the instruction is rigorous and meaningful for our students, both when they're in school and when they are remote. So any questions? Sorry about the little interruption.
Oh, that's okay. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. You're so busy. Anyone have any questions? No? Thanks, Mrs. Mitchell. Stay safe. Okay?
Thank you.
We
You
appreciate
too.
your hard work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next up will be Mr. Cullinan.
Am
Hi,
I up?
Mr. Cullinan. You're up. How are you?
How are you? You know, I'm sitting here and I'm
Good
like,
to
boy,
see you.
good to see you. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year to you too.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, boy, why is Mr. Zip and Mrs. Mitchell, why are they so delayed? And I'm just listening to Miss Mitchell. All of a sudden, my Zoom pops up. I'm like, oh, now I get it. Now it makes sense.
I know, isn't it crazy? These
Oh.
Zoom things. I know. You're right on though.
All right, beautiful. So
Okay.
I could just say ditto, and then we could just go about our ways and say we're doing exactly what we've been doing with the high school and middle school, Union East, because we've actually, made an effort to collaborate quite a bit with both buildings this year, and so we continue to do that. So a lot of things they're doing, we're doing as well, and we're doing some different things also. So, but one of the main focuses here at the middle school so far this year, we're trying to foster a high-quality learning community, and so we put an emphasis on developing a strong learning community with all of our cohorts. So whether our students are in person a couple of days a week, whether they're in person every day, or whether they're just full remote, we try to make sure we ensure and maintain strong ties with our students, especially the full remote ones that we don't see, because we want to make sure that, eventually they're going to come back to us. So to all of our students, we're providing asynchronous instruction, and we're trying to sustain high quality instruction for all of our full remote students as well. We're a little bit different in terms of how we're pushing that out. They have the opportunity in some grade levels to be synchronous all day. Other ones, they're in and out depending on the schedule that the grade level is set up. But we're getting a decent amount. We'd love to get more kids in. So if any students are out there, families are listening tonight, we'd love to get you logged on. Any questions, we try to send out, phone calls and emails and texts to try to remind our families exactly what we're doing and remind them to log on. So the more the better, because we want to make sure that everybody's doing their part to help us get all of our students involved. Our faculty has been doing an outstanding job of trying to maintain instruction with our in-person students while also doing the log on with our synchronous full remote kids through a variety of digital platforms that they're using. Like Mr. Zip said earlier, it's really great to see how much we've come technology-wise in the last, I would say since the beginning of this year, leading into last year, how much we've jumped and how much more we've been able to do just because of the strong efforts by our teachers. So a big kudos to them for everything, because the frustration level, the stress level has been extremely high, and they fought through it all, and they continue to do it. And we're very lucky to have the staff that we have in place at the middle school for sure. Here at the middle school, we're also implementing four brand new curriculums this year. So on top of everything else, they're also trying to implement those 4 new curriculums. So that's a challenge, but they've done a great job of doing that, and we continue to push that out. And one of the things we started to do a little while back, and we continue to do, is that we're honoring our full remote students with some lawn signs like we passed out last year to the teachers. And what we want to do is acknowledge those kids, even though they're not here with us at all. They're still doing their work. Teachers are nominating them for a lot of different strong attributes that they're given to us, and we want to make sure that we continue to honor them. And so we take the signs over. Mr. Ryan and Mrs. Merson, who are our Project Positive coordinators, and Mrs. Daniels and myself have delivered signs and moved them around, taking pictures and posted them up on different social medias and such, and on our website. And we just want to make sure those kids realize they're still with us, even though they're not with us in person. And it's hard for everybody, but we're trying to keep everybody involved as much as we can. As part of our SEP program, we're rolling out our data protocol, and that's a big piece of trying to figure out exactly what we're doing and the use of it. And so you hear a lot of data talk, and the key for us and what we're really trying to focus on is making sure, especially in ELA and math, where we definitely need some work, that we're really focusing on the data, and then we're going to read what the data is telling us and try to make it gauge our instruction, and it's going to direct us on which way we should go and how we should really emphasize certain things. And our teachers done a great job of that. This data protocol seemed a little overwhelming at first, but as we've gone on in the process, they've gotten used to it, and now it's becoming more and more comfortable. And now the key is making sure we continue to utilize what the data is telling us, and that's what our plan is going forward. In these meetings, we got grade levels that we break off into, the content areas we break off into, and we have Google breakout rooms. We analyze the data and we discuss our next steps. So this is just another testimony of how the middle school continues to be resourceful, even within all this current situation that we're going through. The collaboration, we focus on that, on a daily basis. We remind our faculty how important it is to continue to collaborate, whether we're in meetings or not, but continue to collaborate, lean on your colleagues, whether they're in our building, whether they're out of our building. Make sure we lean on them and use each other. It's one of our best resources, and it's easy. You just got to reach out and talk to those people, and it makes a lot of things a lot easier. Next week, we're actually going to use one of our BOCES resources. Mr. Daniel Lynch is going to show us some synchronous instruction for our remote and hybrid students. He's going to show us some different formats that he's pushed out to some in other districts, and just to give our teachers some more options. So we're going to take a look at that in our PD next week. We're also trying to focus on getting ready for the second semester, which begins early February here. And we're planning a virtual tour for those that aren't with us, and but the in-person tour for those that come back that are brand new to the building, so they can see the building, get used to it, get a look at it, feel a little more comfortable, and gain some familiarity with it. If you get a chance, you can log on to the school website. We continue to post things quite a bit on there. We've got some great band and chorus concerts from the holidays that were fantastic. If you get a chance to check those out. Over the holidays, we also had our school social worker, Mrs. Nancy Keene, who it's her birthday today, so happy birthday, Mrs. Keene. She posted a video for us, just offering support for families and students during the time off, just to support their mental health and well-being. And we continue to put an emphasis on that as well, to make sure that we are reaching all of our students and helping them in any way we can. So that's all I have from the middle school today. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Cullinan? No?
Okay.
Nothing? Good job, Mr. Cullinan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay
Great seeing
safe.
everybody.
Good to see you.
You too. Take care.
Thanks for your hard work. Okay, so we'll move forward. Citizens open forum, there is none this meeting. Attorney's report, none this meeting. Consent agenda, is there anything that anyone would like to remove or discuss? Okay, there being none, I need a motion for the consent agenda, please.
I'll make
I'll
the
make a
motion,
motion.
Heather Dubard.
I'll second Kevin Leary.
Sorry, Kevin.
I have a motion by Mrs. Dubard, a second by Mr. Leary. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Superintendent's report, please, Mrs. Morris.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. It's with pleasure that I present for your approval the recommendation for tenure for Mrs. Mitchell in the area of school principal.
I make a motion.
And a second,
I'll
please.
second. I'll
I have a
second Heather
motion by-
Dubard.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Warburton, a second by Mrs. Dubard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
We do have a resignation, Mark Hout, from his position as cleaner pending his laborer appointment, which you already approved in consent.
Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion, Heather Dubard.
In a second?
I'll second Carol Kapowski.
I have a motion by Mrs. Dubard, a second by Ms. Karopolsky. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
And your approval is recommended for the following appointment: Michael Scaia for the laborer part-time for the Hout resignation.
Could I have a motion for Michael Scaia, please?
I'll make a motion.
And a
I'll
second?
second that, Schaefer.
I have a motion by Mr. Raska and a second by Mr. Schaefer. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
For your information, we have 2 leaves, paid leaves, as permitted by the Family Medical Leave Act that do not require any action, but we did want you to know about them.
Thank you.
And Board related, policy on first read is the record retention amendment. No action is required. I think it was just a simple language change.
Okay.
Budget related, there is no action for, obviously, Mrs. Tokarczyk isn't here to do the budget development update, but the financial reports, the budget status report, the revenue status report, the year-end financial projection, all of those are there for your review. No action required. Any questions? Thank goodness. All right, your approval is requested for the attached budget transfers. In summary, the budget transfers are listed for you on your agenda. And I do need a motion for that.
Can I have a
I'll make the
motion,
motion.
please, for the budget transfers?
I'll make the motion, Heather Dubard.
In a second, please.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion by Mrs. DeBarda, second by Mr. Warburton. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Attached is the draft corrective action plan for the district's 18-19 internal audit report findings, and I'm looking for your approval for that corrective action plan.
Thank you, Mrs. Morris. I need a motion, please, for the internal audit corrective action plan.
I'll make a
I'll make the
motion.
motion.
I have a motion by Ms. Karpowski. I need a second by Mr.
I'll second it.
Leary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
And finally, your approval is recommended for the amended district use of facilities application as revised, effective upon approval.
Renee.
Oh, you're mute, Renee.
I'll make the motion. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second Heather Dubard.
I have a motion by Mrs. Wilson, a second by Mrs. DeBarge. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
And I'd like to move into executive session. I'd like a motion to discuss employment matters of a particular employee.
Okay, could I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
And a second, please? I have a motion by
I'll
Mr.
second.
Schaefer, a second by Mr. Warburton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carried. We're going to enter into executive session.
So we're going to leave this meeting and enter the other,
Yep,
and then I don't believe we'll need to come back.
Okay.
okay.